Okay, so how did you do on the U-Try? This one came from page 142, number 23. The function is written down. We're going to go ahead and get started. It is a quadratic in form. Again, trinomial, where the middle term's exponent is half of the lead term's exponent, so that you know that we can do this method. We're going to jump right in. There's no GCF in this one. So I gave you two examples where there was a GCF. This one doesn't have a GCF, so it's not a thing. You don't have to worry about that. Can we factor it? Are there factors of 25 that add up to a negative 26? And the answer to that is yes. I know Miss Meek did the magic X thing with you guys. And you've got A times C over here. So that's going to give you 25. And then down here, you've got your B term, which is negative 26. So the only option that fits in this category would be a negative 25 and a negative 1. So when we go to do this, two sets of parentheses, except it's not quadratic, it's a quartic, degree 4. So we have to put x squared in both spots over here. And then we're going to put our minus 25 and our minus 1. Isn't that something? Remember before, and I'll even toggle up and show you, where I said you cannot factor this anymore because it's not a minus sign. Look what they gave us on this question. They gave us minus signs. Well, what does it mean? If I have a difference of two perfect squares, I can still factor this. So I'm going to go ahead and turn this into two parentheses, and I'm going to factor my x times my x. My square root of 25 is 5, and to get a negative, I need a positive and a negative. So there's two factors right there, both real. When I come over here, I've got x squared minus 1, which is a difference of two perfect squares. So I can make two more parentheses. I'm going to have an x times an x, and I'm going to have 1 and 1 with a plus and a minus. So this is factorable. Are any of these complex? No. So just because you get a quadratic in form doesn't automatically mean that you're going to have something that floats. You've got to actually go ahead and go through the process and factor it completely and see what happens. Now, this factor is going to give us x plus 5 equals 0, so x is negative 5. This factor is x minus 5 equals 0, so that's going to give us a positive 5. This is x plus 1 equals 0, so that's going to give us a negative 1. And this is x minus 1 equals 0, and that's going to give us a 1. So we've got 4 real zeros. That means that it's going to cross the x-axis in 4 different spots. Let's go over to the side and do our work and get this thing sketched. So we already talked about the highest exponent being a 4. So the degree is 4, and that makes it a quartic. The lead coefficient on our first term is 1, positive 1. So our A is positive, which means that positive quartics start up and end up, and W in the middle somehow. There's a W shape. It could be a little warped, but it's a W. We don't know what this one's going to do. Well, we'll know in a second. The only other thing we need to find is the y-intercept, because we already found the x-intercepts. We already found the zeros. Y-intercept is 0, comma, whatever the constant is. And at the very end, our constant is 25. Or you can plug 0 in, and you'll still get 25. And then I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 spots on my graph where this thing's going to cross. So now it's time for us to sketch. It's not beautiful, but it's okay. Y-axis, 25. There's my y-intercept. I need a negative 5 and a positive 5, a negative 1 and a positive 1. Please make sure when you do this that you go in numerical order on the x-axis so that you're plotting these correctly. You can't just put the numbers in anywhere. They have to go in numerical order because this is a number line after all. Boom, 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 and boom. And guys, there's no bouncing and there's no like tricky cubic S-turn thing. We're just passing through. It's got to start up and end up. So it's got to start up top left. It's got to pass through, skirt, turn around, pass through, come to 25, skirt, pass through, skirt, pass through, and there's our W. Look at that. So just because it's quadratic in form doesn't mean that they're always going to float. It means that you should have, if it's a quartic, 4 values for x. And depending on what those values are, will depend on where your graph is situated.